Hey everyone, it's the Dr. Jason West program. Hello, we got so much neat stuff to go over on the secrets to stomach health. So many people, when they don't feel good, it's because their stomachs aren't working right. And so we've put together this really neat stomach university that we're going to talk about the different ways to help digestion, indigestion, heartburn, diarrhea, constipation. Man, we got a lot of stuff to go over, and I'm so excited to share with you, you guys. We have a book that we put together, a free report. You can go right here. I'm going to put the description down inside of the Facebook and YouTube channel that you can get to after this, or you can go and you can just give us a quick email at info@West Clinic Online. I can send you the report, but the report is up and it is live. And so you can go there right now. You go to West Clinic Online /digestive space health. And remember, it's something that we do every single week. And man, is there a lot of stuff to go over on digestive health. I've got a dynamite presentation that I'm so excited to share for people with. I'm just going to bring it up to right here and get it teed off, because if you can improve your stomach health, it improves how you get nutrients in your system, how you absorb nutrients, and how you get waste products out of the body. And I've done a lot of work on this, and I'm excited to share that with you. So it's all about the secrets of stomach health. Remember, we do this every single Wednesday night at 6 o'clock. We have a master class on our Facebook and our YouTube channels, and we're not going to be able to get to everything tonight. I want to focus on the most important things, which is acidity levels. By the way, you guys, right here, my little pad thing, it means that I've got a broken collarbone. I'm trying not to move my arm very much. That's why you got this little black thing here, because I went out and I decided that I was going to ride my dirt bike, and I did a flying Superman over the handlebars, broke my clavicle in a couple different places. I've got a plate and some screws in there, and that's what this black brace is for. And so let's start talking about the Stomach University and then what we can do about it. There's a lot of material to go over. It's going to be a multiple part series. So we're going to talk about digestion and heartburn and how to basically some really brief touching on diarrhea and constipation this week. We're going to pick it up again next week. And it would really help you guys if we could get a shout out and let us know if, give us a comment and let us know that you're there. If you'd like us to go over a specific health technique or health section and diagnosis, please give us a shout out. So we're always looking for ideas of what we can do to help people. And so let's start off with the Stomach University. I'm going to bring up my presentation. Here it goes. We have stomach problems and what we can do about it. And let's jump right into it. We're really going to focus on acid reflux and indigestion tonight. And I would like to really to help people to understand that so many health problems are associated with the lack of digestion, which is interpreted as too much acid. And so one of the things that it's so bad in healthcare is we start taking things to neutralize or knock down our stomach acid, and we start creating additional problems. And there's a really neat way, a natural way to fix that. And so this is what we wanted to do. So one of the things that I wanted to review with everybody is the stomach. You are what you eat and you are what you absorb. And so many times when people have stomach problems, it's basically a lack of digestion. It's not too much acid. And I'm going to explain the difference and how we get things or how we have problems that we start to think, okay, we're going to block acid. We're going to take, Tums, or we're going to take something to calm down our stomach. And what's happening is we don't have enough digestive influence or digestive sauce. And so what happens is a food jumps in there, it ferments, it rots and decays. And we have basically this classic heartburn distress. It's not fun. I've had some myself. And it can range from a little bit, or it can range to a lot. And so then you can't talk about stomach without having concerns or questions about, ulcers and colitis. So let's talk about this really quickly, that Ulcers, it's aggravated by stress. It's caused by a bacteria. And basically, it's what happens when the mucosa lining isn't healthy. And one of the things I think you have to take care of every single stomach problem is you got to make sure that the mucosa lining is healthy. And one of the best ways to do that is our friend vitamin A. Vitamin A helps to lubricate mucous membranes as part of the immune system. It protects your eyes. And I say this literally about every vitamin. Vitamin C is my favorite. Vitamin D is my favorite. Vitamin A is my favorite. Vitamin B, all 30 types of B vitamins are my favorite. But one of the best things that you can do for stomach problems and vitamin A, for myself, depending on the situation, it's important to get several thousand units of vitamin A for your stomach lining. And then also I'm going to talk briefly about one of the best things that you can do to heal and soothe irritated GI tissue is to increase your vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin K. Your fat-soluble vitamins help to heal and soothe irritated GI tissue. We're going to give a real quick overview of what some of those things are inside of the system. And by the way, if any of you guys are struggling with ulcers, sometimes they respond very nicely to antibiotic therapy. But here's a real quick experience. I've had 21 years in practice. My dad taught me this. He was in practice 51 years before he passed away. And one of the best things that you can do for stomach is there's a homeopathic called anacardium. It's available through multiple places on the internet, certainly through our store. Anacardium is so good for helping the body to heal from ulcers, and you couple that with vitamins A, vitamins D, vitamin E, vitamin K, and what happens, it helps to heal and soothe irritated GI tissue. I also think that there's some really good benefits. I got asked about this today. Activated charcoal and also a fat-soluble plant blood extract. It's called chlorophyll. Really, really helpful for stomach conditions. And so if you've got ulcers, vitamin A, anacardium, and your fat-soluble vitamins are consideration. We cover that in our report. If you're just joining us, we have a report available. You can actually see it right online, and all you have to do is follow this link, or you can just send us a quick email to info@West Clinic Online so that you can get your free report on stomach conditions and stuff like that. So that being said, let's talk about hypoacidity. I got a really sensitive mouse in the studio. Hypoacidity is when there's not enough stomach acid to digest the stomach contents. And so what happens is a ferment, it rots and decays. And one of the best, easiest, and so inexpensive to do is to do the stomach test. You take a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar when the symptoms occur. If the symptoms are worse, there's evidence of excessive hydrochloric acid, which I think it happens about 20% of the time. Most of the time, that doesn't happen. And so what occurs is we can get some conflicting medical advice. We have a doctor here with a smile on one side, a scowl on the other, a thumb up and a thumb down. And he's talking about what to do when it comes to stomach. And this is one of my favorite pictures, you guys. This is a cross section of the stomach. You see what happens is your food digests. It comes into stomach and it's supposed to digest. Over here on the left is when your stomach has digested food, this valve opens up and it's called the pyloric sphincter. Excuse me, the pyloric sphincter. What is occurring is when the food gets digested, there's a hormone signaler that goes over the stomach called cholecystokinin, and it comes back and it helps to open up this valve. If you don't have enough digestion, the food rots, it ferments and decays, then it comes up and it irritates you. And then you have that sick heartburn feeling or acid reflux. And if it's chronic over time, we call it gastroesophageal reflux disease. And if you don't have good digestion, what occurs is you get these esophageal erosions, and it can cause, it can be the precursor from some really serious problems, even a stomach cancer. And so what we want to do is we want to speed up digestion. Now, in about 20% of the time, it is a case of too much acid, or what they call hyperacidity. And with hyperacidity, there's a really neat way to help calm down the acid inside of your body without having to use calcium carbonate, aka Tums, or Rolate or some of these other things that just put chalk into your system. And then what happens is the body doesn't know exactly what to do with the chalk. I think it can wear out the gallbladder. And so that's why we're having so many gallbladder surgeries and stomach conditions. And also, if the body doesn't have a good way of getting rid of it, what occurs is you get hardened arteries. The body stores up this insoluble calcium along the veins, and we call that arteriosclerosis, which is a huge healthcare problem. Somewhere between 1 out of 2, 1 out of 3 people have some type of cardiovascular disease, and it's because we're getting too much of the wrong calcium in our system. It's insoluble calcium, and that's one of the problems that's associated with stomach problems, is having too many blockers or stoppers. And so this is one of my favorite pictures to explain what's going on with your stomach and acid reflux. So if you take that apple cider vinegar, and again, here's the protocol. I want everybody to follow me on this, because I had a really funny patient story where we got a little bit misinterpreted, and he was taking way too much apple cider vinegar. So here's the protocol. If you're having acid reflux and you want to know if it's a lack of acidity, do this. Take a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, put it in a half a glass of water, about 8 ounces. And you should take it. I like to do it immediately after meals. And that vinegar, or that acetic acid, helps to break down food. Now, this is one way to do it. If this improves, you can all continue taking the apple cider vinegar. Or what I like to do is I like to take some digestive enzymes. They have stuff for protein, stuff for carbs, and stuff for fat. So you want to have a comprehensive enzyme formula. So many times people have stomach problems, and then they come into the office and they'll say, I just tried a protein enzyme. Well, that's not enough, because your proteins your foods have proteins, they have fats, and they have carbs in it. If you're only digesting 1 out of 3, it's usually not enough. So you want a comprehensive enzyme formula that helps to break the food down. If the apple cider vinegar, this is the first test I have for people, if it helps your stomach conditions, I usually chance people to a pill, because it's a little bit easier to get down. Some weird people out there, and I'm joking when I say that, they actually like apple cider vinegar. It has so many health benefits. Matter of fact, we did a show and we counted up at least 12 tremendously beneficial effects of apple cider vinegar. Digestion was one, hair was another, hormone balance, weight loss. I mean, there's some great benefits of apple cider vinegar. And so if you have a stomach problem, try that test. Now, I had a patient, well, actually it was a college roommate, that we were roommates together at Utah State. Then he went back to Colorado and he had a stomach problem. I had a doctor friend that was practicing in Colorado. So my former roommate calls me and says, hey, I'm having some stomach problems. What should I do? I said, go see my doctor friend. I called my doctor friend and said, hey, will you have my friend that's coming into your office take a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar in a half a glass of water after meals? Let's see if that helps. If it does, it means we just have a lack of digestion, a lack of protein enzymes. It'll help for the body to get better. And so what happened is somehow he got mixed signals. He told my former roommate, drink a half a glass of apple cider vinegar, which is an enormous amount. And so my friend called me a little while later and said, hey, this is the cure. I'd rather be sick. It's so much apple cider vinegar. And we had a chuckle about that, because it's about 10 times more than normal dosage. So 1 tablespoon and half a glass of apple cider vinegar. Now, what happens is if this occurs, if you have an improvement, lack of digestion, if you have an irritation associated with this, what happens is we're lacking a downregulation of your digestive enzymes, your sympathetic nervous system. And this can be marvelously controlled with a mineral called phosphorus. So if there's any benefit to the presentation today that you would like to take away, it's this. Phosphorus is one of the best things for your vagus nerve, for your sympathetic and your parasympathetic nervous system. Hardly anybody uses it. Now, there's multiple products and places where you can get phosphorus. If you're interested in a really good source, on our website, you can go to our store. It's a West Clinic, and then that's the password to get into the doctor's area, and you can get something called PhosFood. So this is this is outlined in all of our stomach problems. True hyperacidity, you can downregulate with a simple, inexpensive mineral called phosphorus, which, by the way, is one of my favorite things to give people because it's so helpful for energy. If you're not, if it's true like indigestion, then we need to get you a digestive enzyme. Now, one of the popular misconceptions in stomach problems is that all acid or indigestion is the same, and this is not accurate. Most of the time, medically, they'll tell you you need to alkalize the stomach, which works for a while, but then you have a train wreck that's coming. And I don't really like the acid blockers of Zantac, Tagamet, or Pepcid unless all natural things have failed. So many times we can help people without having to do those. And the antacids and acid blockers cause long-term digestive problems. And so chronically alkaline pH in the stomach makes the pancreas and basically the parietal cells produce more hydrochloric acid, and then the cells basically become exhausted and they doesn't work anymore. So please try some natural things first before we bring in, some of the bigger guns later, and that is the apple cider vinegar or the phosphorus is a great place to start. And the long-term effects of those alkalizing agents decreases the efficiency of digestion. And I see a lot of undesirable or accidental fibromyalgia and stuff from antacids because acidity is so important. If you have too much acidity, bad things happen. If you have too much alkalinity, bad things happen. And alkalinity causes a lot of bursitis and osteoarthritis because the body has to be acidic to get the calcium into the right place. Too much calcium, you get bursitis and bone spurs and osteoarthritis. Too little calcium, you get osteoporosis and osteopenia, muscle problems, and an inefficient immune system. And that's all about coming from the antacids. So whenever we can get the stomach to balance out naturally, it's so much better. Excuse me. So going over and talking about remedies, if you have too much hyperchlorhydria, so a mineral phosphorus calms down the vagus nerve, and then you want to protect the stomach with vitamin A and vitamin D and vitamin K. And if you have not enough, vinegar is a great trial, digestive enzymes, and a vacuum cleaner. Now, what do I mean by a vacuum cleaner? One of the best herbs available for stomach problems, particularly lower down in the GI system, is okra. So okra is used a lot more in the South than it is out in the West where I live. I don't particularly like okra. I kind of think it's slimy, it's yellow, and it doesn't taste good, but that's because I didn't grow up with it. That's just my opinion. But okra literally acts like a lint roller and vacuums out the lower part of your GI system. I call it a vacuum cleaner treatment. Matter of fact, it's one of the best things you can do for irritable bowel and malabsorption is to use the top part of the stomach. We want digestive enzymes. We also want to heal and protect irritated GI tissue with your fat-soluble vitamins. And then we want to vacuum out the lower part of the GI system. Now, one of the other advanced techniques that you can do for lower GI problems, you have ulcerative colitis and hemorrhoids and anal fissures and stuff like that. Every stuff goes out in the body, is to do the rectal insufflation therapy. And that's something that we've talked about in our other lives where we take a concentrated bit of oxygen and ozone and we put it into a little catheter, you insert it rectally, and you flood the GI, louder part of the GI system with oxygen. There's a medical researcher in Cuba named Silvia Menendez. I think she's published something like 80 peer-reviewed studies on the benefits of using basic concentrated oxygen, a little bit of ozone in the last part of the GI system. It's something that is really worth knowing about if you have those problems. I know we started off talking initially about the top part of the stomach, which I'll come back to, but man, such an important component of that. Also, let's talk about some of the aggravating things that occurs with indigestion. So there's about 6 things that I think are really important for people to know about the indigestion and bloating. And this is one of the biggest things that I see for women. I think it's because they're a little bit more body conscious than men, is they're saying, look, I just can't get rid of this little bulge or this problem that I have. And so a lot of times they'll go to the gym and they'll just hammer away on sit-ups and crunches and stuff like that. And a lot of times it's because people are putting stuff into their body that they can't break down. And so they bloat, and sometimes they'll belch or it goes out the other end, and we call it flatulence. My children always laugh when I talk about passing gas and farts and stuff like that. It's something that they think is really, really funny, but it's because we're not completely breaking down the foods, or we can have some food allergies or food sensitivities. And so one of the worst indigestion aggravators is not breaking the food down correctly. That's number one. Number two, I am so down. I just do not like artificial sweeteners. I think that fruits and honey and molasses and pure maple syrup are really good sources of things to sweeten things up, particularly fresh fruits. If you want to sin and go to the dark side, I kind of had a tendency, like I like stevia, brown sugar, but one of the worst things you can do is the artificial sweeteners. I think they're so toxic to people. I way rather have people drink regular soda pop, which I'm not a soda pop recommender at all, than to have the artificial sweeteners, which are the high dose proteins and amino acids. I think there's such a better way to sweeten food with natural fruits and with nuts. And I'm just a really big fan of honey, but artificial sweeteners, I see so many problems with this. The other one is high fat meals. And so many people, what happens is their liver and their gallbladder, they get tired. And what that means is when you have food that comes down your GI system, if we don't have a proper enzymatic breakdown and bile salts. Now, bile salts are made in the liver. And then what happens is if they were not used during the digestive process, they go over to the gallbladder and they're stored up. Now, sometimes the gallbladder gets diseased and you have to take it out. Many times I think people have unnecessary gallbladder surgery removals. And so if you're one of those people out there that is considering chronic stomach problems and getting your gallbladder out, like, we should try to help your body with some bile salts. And what bile salts do is it helps to emulsify or break down fats. And it's kind of the same idea. Like if you have dirty dishes in your house and you go to clean those up, what do? We add hot water and we add soap. So hot water speeds up the enzymatic reaction. And then what soap does is it helps to break down the fat. Well, bile salts are your fats of your system. And so if we get too much fats in our system, basically it doesn't allow our small intestine from completely emptying. A lack of bile salts is called, or it causes a condition called constipation. Too many bile salts or overstimulation of the liver gallbladder axis, and it goes really fast and we get diarrhea. So one of the ways to really modulate too slow of bowels or too fast of bowels is to use some bile salts. That's something that aggravates indigestion. And then lactose intolerance. Dry milk filler crops up in surprising places, hamburger patties. And so many people are sensitive to overprocessed or mutilated dairy. And what do I mean by that? I think some of the best things that you can do for your indigestion is the closer that your food is to the ground, or the closer to your food is to the source, the more healthy it is. And so what does that mean? I tell people, you know what, if you go out and you grab a carrot and you pull it up and you basically wash off the carrot and eat it, like, I think that's a really good way to get beta carotene and vitamin A and fiber in your system. If we take the carrot and we process a lot and it ends up in carrot cake, which is probably like, well, not probably, it can taste really, really good. But what happens is now we've taken all of the phytonutrients and the cofactors and we end up with a bunch of sugars, and then we put a carb to it. And then guess what? It's not nearly as healthy as the carrot. And milk and dairy are one of the same things. Like, I think that over-processed milk, I'm not a fan of skim milk or 2% milk. I'm really not even a fan of homogenized or pasteurized milk, because I think it's so much healthier raw. And some people get really alarmed when I say that. And I'm like, look, the studies show, and patient experience, so many times people are sensitive or really bothered by milk. And what's happened is it's been too bastardized. It's been too touched by man. And a lot of times people that have too much stuff going on in milk, what happens is they go to a raw dairy source. What happens is it's so much healthier for them. So by and large, I think the best way to eat is kind of a modified caveman diet, which is fruits, fresh vegetables, and protein sources. I'm kind of a fan of animal sources for protein. Yes, Americans eat too much meat. I also think that a little bit of meat is good for you. And certainly I'm going to have some hardcore vegetarians say, no, that's not accurate. But my observation is that people do pretty well with a little bit of animal protein. One of my favorite books that I reference all the time, and you can talk about to one side of no meat called the China Study. You can talk about another one called Deep Nutrition by one of my heroes, Dr. Kate Shanahan. And she talks about how it's so important to have a variety of cross sections. But the one thing that we're all kind of in favor of is you got to be really careful with refined carbs, breads, rolls, biscuits, cinnamon rolls, cookies, things like that. But dairy has a tendency to aggravate people. I like to try and get people to take a break from modified dairy, and I think it's really good for their digestive system. Okay, the other thing, everybody knows this more and more, is antibiotics. There's anti-life therapy, and yes, there absolutely is a place for it, and it saves countless lives, but it's also really abused and overprescribed. Matter of fact, I just had a patient today said I have a urinary tract infection. My stomach was a little bit upset. I went to the doctor and they immediately gave me Cipro, and I took this. I had a horrible reaction to it, and my response is, "Well, wait a minute. Cipro is a black box warning. It's a really, really strong antibiotic. If nothing else works, I think that is the next reasonable step." But not initially. Some of these antibiotics are just too strong, and that's always a recommendation. Let's try and get your immune system healthy naturally, good sleep, get your body on a schedule, healthy and alive foods, good thoughts, emotions, and movement. And we're going to talk about that in our upcoming sections and why it's so significant. Be really careful with your antibiotic usage. And then the last thing that causes so many health problems is stress. Now, can you get rid of stress? Absolutely not. You can't get rid of stress. Can you manage or mitigate stress? Of course you can. And that's one of the components to life. Confucius, Aristotle, Hippocrates, Buddha, Muhammad, Christ, every leader in the history of man is telling people, look, you got to get centered. You got to line up, and you got to manage stress. One of my favorite books that I recommend to all patients is Letting Go by David Hawkins. It's such a good book about recognizing there's things in life that you can choose to stress or you cannot choose to stress. Like you can't control things. And by the way, no one has it completely figured out. Some people may do it a little bit better than others. So one of the things I recommend for stress, you should find something that helps you to get centered. And so playing a musical instrument, listening to music, going on a drive, going on a walk, prayer, meditation, journaling, deep breathing, yoga, exercise, so many different things are helpful to get you centered. There's no right or wrong answer. I think my favorite thing that works the best for me is journaling. I think that connects your right and your left side of the body so that you can help to modulate stress. There's so many neurotransmitters inside of your stomach. If those neurotransmitters are off, what occurs is you get too much sympathetic overload. It fires off the vagus nerve. You get too much acidity. It breaks down the mucosal lining. And so that's one of the things that we talk about. So to summary, you are what you eat and you are what you absorb. It's so important for us to be able to absorb the vitamins and the minerals and the phytonutrients and the building blocks for hormones and for immune system stimulation. So if you have too much acidity, if you have heartburn or indigestion, what I'd recommend first is trying the apple cider vinegar or the healthy enzymes. You want to protect the stomach lining with your fat-soluble vitamins. Fiber is so good, celery and whole oranges and broccoli. And I like baked potatoes, even though I can hear a doctor friend of mine saying, no, all potatoes are bad. That's not true. Vitamin, being from Idaho, the healthy potatoes are good. Potato chips and French fries, not so good. And then, of course, what helps all stomach conditions, in my experience, is movement. Now, you don't have to go out and run a marathon or do an Ironman competition. Start with some simple things, consistent walking, parking your car a little bit further away. It's so good for your GI system. and then slowing down acid naturally. If you are one of those people that has too much acidity in their stomach, you did the apple cider vinegar test and it made things worse, what happens is we need to down-regulate your nervous system. So we want to protect the stomach lining with fat-soluble vitamins. We want to use phosphorus and mineral therapy, and we want to have a stress outlet. So that's a real quick overview of what we're going on inside of our Stomach University. This is part one to get a nice overview. We're also going to be talking about diarrhea. We're going to be talking about constipation, food allergies, and one of the other side effects of improper digestive problems, which is hemorrhoids and varicose veins and spider veins. You didn't know if that, some people don't know that that's absolutely positively part of an indigestion problem. So if you haven't got your report, here is the link below. You just have to fill this in and we'll send you the report. It's all ready to go. It's a great resource, starts talking about the different parts of the stomach. We're going to be adding some advanced treatment protocols as we go on. I think it's going to take us about 3 or 4 weeks to go through this, but this was the first step on the 6 problems that cause indigestion, what to do for hyperacidity, which is a phosphorus, is a mineral, and fat-soluble vitamins, and then not enough acidity, which too many people recognize or understand as indigestion, and then they're taking the wrong thing. They're actually taking something that's going to cause problems later, and that's the calcium carbonate and the acid stoppers and stuff like that. So if the link doesn't work or you can't get there, just send us an email at info@West Clinic Online, or I'm happy to send something up if you'll just write #stomach, and we can come in and we can send you a link to that free report. So you guys, that is our program for tonight. The first part of the Stomach University. Next week, we're going to be talking about diarrhea, your stomach going too fast. And we're also going to be talking about your stomach too slow, constipation. And it seems like a lot of sick people, it's one or the other. And the constipation, it's just money, you guys. When I say money, it's just so good for your GI system. Bile salts, it's money, or it helps you to get your GI system working right. If your GI system doesn't work right, you don't work right. That's our show for this week. Dr. Jason West Live every Wednesday at 6 o'clock, our free master class. Next week, diarrhea and constipation. Thanks for tuning in. I'm going to take our insider circle, the Thrivers Tribe. We go through specific questions and answers, the latest research, and what's happening with our patient success stories every night at 7 o'clock. We go through this private Facebook community. If you would like some more information about the Thrivers Tribe, you can go to this westclinic.com. What happens is we have some virtual office visits. We also design a year of supplements for you that are customized specifically for you, and you get some of the insider stuff inside of the office. Anyway, that is the program tonight. I'll see you guys next week. This is Dr. Jason West. I'm signing out. See you later.